Om Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannawadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Bhavet Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Agajanana Padmarkam Gajanana Maharnisham अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे श्रीमहागणपतये नमः गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹர ஹரோஹரா லோகவீர்யம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம் சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிருக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே ஜகதः பிதரோ வந்தே பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வரौ ஸ்ரீ பார்வதி பரமேஸ்வராभ्यां நமः कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्ख कौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृते कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं विदरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुवमभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलाधरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി ഏതീനു മന്യനെ കുമ്പീടേണ്ട തോറു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കുന്നായി കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good evening, everyone. Kannan Sudha, welcome back.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you.
All right, so Nikki, if we just jump into 66 because I want to finish both these chapters today, and there is, like a lot of meaning that will go into this. So, Sudha, you can be a student, and Gopiji, you can be a student. Okay. So what I'll do in 66, 67, instead of going stanza by stanza, I'll kind of give the gist upfront. So because I think some of this stanza by stanza will not make too much sense, but it's important to get the essence of it, right? So we saw in the last class, right, how Krishna had promised all the gopikas during the when he had stolen the clothes, that he's going to give them a chance to meet with him in the Yamuna at some point in a Purnima day. And so on, when that particular day comes, then Krishna is then playing the flute. And we saw in the last chapter how all these gopikas, no matter what they were doing, abandoned completely everything that they were doing. And it gave a lot of examples how they, some of them left their family, some of them left their children, some of them left their mothers, because they were all ages, right? And they kind of abandoned everything and came to Krishna. So that's kind of what we saw in the last class. So when this, so then this chapter, this 66 67 is coming before Rasa Krida, because this is actually very important to explain the relationship between Krishna and Gopikas, right? And that is very important to we saw some of it earlier, how they were always thinking about Krishna. We kind of got that concept of it. So here the question that comes to everybody's mind, so when Shukha Brahmam is explaining this Bhagavatam to everybody, so Parikshit is looking around and Shukha Brahmam is telling everybody that, look, this Gopikas don't love Krishna like a supreme Bhagavan. They don't love him that way. They love him as a lover, right? So they want to marry him, they want to embrace him, and they want to do like conjugal, they want to really hug him and everything. So Shukha Brahmam, of course, is a very spiritual, he's a realized person, so he does not have any concerns, but he looks around. And when he looks around, he sees that there are a few more people sitting in the audience who start wondering, how is it like Krishna, he's like a 8-year-old boy, he's a Bhagavan, how can he have feelings for Gopikas, right? Or how can Gopikas have feelings for Krishna? So he sees that a lot of the people begin to start having those thoughts. So Shukha Brahmam, and a lot of them don't ask questions because Shukha Brahmam is talking, right? So Parikshit realizes that, and he then poses that question as if others are asking. He says, hey, look, a lot of people will have questions as how can this Krishna, who is supposed to be the absolute truth, whose whole purpose here is to kind of eliminate these materialistic attachments, give blessings to somebody who's materially attached to Krishna? How can that materially attachment actually come, right? That is, that was one of the things that he was actually asking, how they're having that question. And then he says, his whole purpose is to get the soul's condition, get them liberated and all that and bring them back. How can he then have these feelings, and how can the Gopikas have feelings towards Krishna? So that's when Shukha Brahmam actually quotes a lot of examples. He says, and some of it we discussed earlier, he says, the advantage of Krishna is you can approach him in any way you want, right? And he says, even when somebody like the Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu hated the Lord Narayana, wanted to kill him, and Shishupala, Dantavaktra also in the future, when they all have that, they all got liberated. So if somebody is in love, then why should they not get liberated? That was the first question he kind of said, first answer response he says, right? First of all, that it's better than hating, right? At least first of all. So then he goes on to say that the Lord himself, right, you cannot measure anything by what he does. He is the controller of the senses. He is the one who is actually giving you those materialistic feelings. He is the one who controls everything. So which means he cannot be bound by those materialistic attachments. He cannot be bound by the senses like you and I are bound by it, right? Because if he's bound by it, he's like us. How can he be the person who creates everything? So he has to be detached from it, right? So he says Krishna as a person, Krishna as an avataram here, he's not bound by any of these materialistic desires or attachments or any of that stuff. He is giving people who however you want to relate, he's giving you an opportunity to associate himself to you in that manner. You can decide how you want to fall in love with Krishna, and he will fall in love with you in that way. The Gopikas wanted to fall in love in that way, so Krishna gave them that opportunity. Now, doesn't mean that Krishna is materially attached to the Gopikas. That was the number one thing he says. And then he goes on to say that he then talks about the Gopikas itself, saying that these Gopikas themselves are not ordinary human beings, right? In their previous birth, they are all fully realized spiritual beings who then said, you know what, we already realized, we've got the ultimate knowledge, we know the Supreme Brahman, and we are already realized in all the knowledge. We want to experience that materialistic love with the Lord, And that is the reason they got a chance to incarnate. And that is the reason that they are also born along with Krishna in Krishna Avataram, so that they can experience that relationship. So that is the reason the relationship between Krishna and Gopikas are unique. It cannot be compared like how normal human beings talk about love. So that is the explanation that Shukra Brahmam actually gives very beautifully to Parikshit and to everybody else, right? So he said that context is extremely important before you go on further about Rasa Krida and everything, right? So because otherwise you will end up looking at it from a different lens, right? That is the explanation he gives. Then in addition to that, Narada Muni also at one point he gives another explanation, something that sometimes when you go to a doctor and the explanation he gives is, if you have like some problem because of milk, okay, because you're consuming dairy and you're having some problems in your stomach, sometimes they take curd and then mix it with some herbs and give you to solve that problem, right? So sometimes the root curd, where does it come from? It comes from milk only. So how is that able to cure the problem which is caused because of milk? Because it's got different properties, right? So he says similarly, just like how an expert physician knows how to solve it, somebody who's in love, Krishna will give them liberation through love. Doesn't mean that because they're love and they're attached, they're getting materially attached, so they cannot get liberated. That cannot be the answer. He can give you liberation any way he wants. And if you are in love with Krishna, you will get liberated through love. If you are in hatred with Krishna, you will get liberation through hatred, right? So that is the explanation he also gives. So that is kind of the gist of some of the things which happened at the beginning. But anyway, so here in this chapter, what happens is when the Gopikas actually come to Krishna. So Krishna first, he's an 8-year-old boy, right? So he comes and tells them, hey, how come you all have abandoned everything you have? You are all mothers and sisters and wives and everything, and you have abandoned your entire house. How is it fair? That's not the right thing for you. You should all go back home. So Krishna says, you should just go back home. Why are you wasting time in the Vrindavana forest? This is night also, lot of wild animals, and what will people think that you all have abandoned everything and come? So when he says that, the gopis then feel very, they get angry and they get upset and said, what, we've completely abandoned everything. And here we come looking for you and you are telling us to go back. Nobody's going to accept us. So Krishna, they say, this is not fair. You can't just abandon us this way. So we'll stop here and then we'll continue from the middle of the chapter, what happens, okay? So stanza 1. So this one is like the 4-liner tune, but 2 stanzas, okay? So on the tune will be slightly different. Upayhatanam sudrusham kusumayudabanapata vipashanam abhivanchitam vidhatum kritamati sa jagata vamamiva. Upayatanam sudrusham, kusumayuda banapata vipashanam abhivanchitam vidhatum, kritamati ta jagata vamamiva. Upayatanam sudrusham kusumayuda bhanapata vipashanam abhivanchitam vidhatum kritamatira jagatha vamamiva.
Upayatanam sudrusham kusumayuda bhanapata vipashanam abhivanchitam vidhatum kritamatira jagata vamamiva. Upayatanam sudrusham kusumayuda banapata vivashanam abhivanchitam vidatum kritamatira jagata vamamiva.
Upayatanam sudrusham kusumayuda bhanapata vivashanam abhivanchitam vidatum kritamatirapi ta jagadha vamamiva. Upayatana sudrusham kusumayudha banapata vivashanam abhivanchitam vidhatum kritamatirapi ta jagadha vamamiva.
Gagana gatam muni nivaham, shrabayitum jagita kula vadhu dharmam dharmyam khalu te vachanam, karmatu no nirmalasya vishwasyam. Gaganagatam muni nivaham shrabayitum jagita kula vadhu dharmam dharmyam khalu te vachanam karmatu no nirmalasya vishwasyam.
गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रावयितुं जगितकुलवधू धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम् गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रावयितुं जगितकुलवधू धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्
गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रावयितुं जगदिदकुलवधू धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो कर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्
Nirmalasya. Last line.
निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम् गगनगतं मुनिनिवहं श्रावयितुं जगिधकुलवधू धर्म्यं खलु ते वचनं कर्म तु नो निर्मलस्य विश्वास्यम्.
So here, just one comment here. So like here, Bhatripad also says that, see, like the one joke they say, right? You follow what Rama did. Lord Rama, whatever he practices, you follow what he does. But for Krishna, they say, don't follow what he does, because he's the supreme Lord. You cannot like just, when you're 2 months old, kick the Sakatasura and break the card. You can't do what he does. At 7 years, you can't go dance on Kalia. So you can't do what he does. So just don't try to compare yourself with what he's doing, but follow what he preaches. So that's why Krishna, gave Bhagavad Gita. He said it because he says, I'm tell you what to do. Don't try to imitate what I am doing, right? So that's what even here Bhattacharya says is, you are nirmal, you are so pure, you are untainted, and you are the Swayam Bhagavan. So we cannot be doing what you are doing. So dharmyam kalute vachanam. So whatever you are saying, that is dharma. So you follow what Krishna says, and then you practice what Rama does, right? That's how each of these avatarams preach dharma in different ways, right? So that's what even Bhattacharya is telling here. So akarnya te pratipam vanim, so that ma that is there, put a im and comma vanim. Next word starts with the a. Eni drishaha, put a f. Eni drishah param dinaha. Mama karuna sindho, comma. Parityaje tyati chiram. So you can't break that word. It's multiple sandhis there. So parityaje tyati chiram vile pustaha. Akarnyate pratipam vanim enidrishah param dinaha mama karuna sindho parityaje tyati chiram vile pustaha.
आकर्ण्यते प्रतीपां वाणीं येनीदृश परं दीनाः मामा करुणा सिन्धो परित्यजेति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः आकर्ण्यते प्रतीपां वाणीं येनीदृश परं दीनाः मामा करुणा सिन्धो परित्यजेति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः.
On the last line, parityajet yati.
परिज्यतेत्
There are two it. Parityajet yati chiram.
परित्यजेत् यति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः. Correct?
Yeah.
आकर्ण्यते प्रतिपीडां वाणीं येनीदृशः परं दीनाः मामा करुणा सिन्धो परित्यज्यति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः आकर्ण्यते प्रतिपां वाणीं येनीदृशः परं दीनाः मामा करुणा सिन्धो परित्यजेति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः.
Could you say that last line again? Parityajet yati.
परित्यजेत्यति चिरं विलेपुस्ताः.
Tasam hruditair lapitaihi, karunakula manaso murare tvam tabhis samam pravritto, yamuna pulineshu kamam abhirantum. If you want to break it, kamam abhirantum. Tasam ruditairlapitaihi karunakula manaso murare tvam tabhis samam pravritto yamuna pulineshu kamam abhirantum.
तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम् तासां रुदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम्
रासामृतैर्लपितैः करुणाकुला मानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम् तासामृदितैर्लपितैः करुणाकुलमानसो मुरारे त्वं ताभिः समं प्रवृत्तो यमुनापुलिनेषु काममभिरन्तुम्
Chandrakara Syenda Lasat, put a plus, Sundara Yamuna Tatanta Vitishu, short u, Vitishu Gopi Janotariyahi. So the ra that is there, remove it, put a visarga comma, Janotariyahi. Next line starts with the a. Apadita samstaro nyashidas tvam. Chandrakarasyandalasat sundharayamuna tatantavitishu gopi janotariyahi apadita samstaro nyashidastvam.
आपादित संस्तरे निर्केनेक
Samstaro, just change it to samstaro.
संस्तरो
Nyashidastvam.
न्यशीदस्तम् चन्द्रकरस्यन्दलसत् सुन्दर यमुना तटान्तवीथिषु गोपी जनोतरीयैः आपादित संस्तरो न्यशीदस्त्वम्.
And the first line, and second line, whatever you're saying, V T shu, rendume long E and then a short shu.
वीतीषु. Okay.
Yeah.
चन्द्रकरस्यन्दलसत् सुन्दर यमुना तटान्तवीथिषु गोपी जनोत्तरीयैः आपादित संस्तरो न्यशीदस्त्वम्.
चन्द्रकरस्यन्दलसत् सुन्दरयमुना तडान्धवीथीषु गोपीजनोत्तरीयैः आपादितसंस्तरो न्यशीदस्त्वम् चन्द्रकरस्यन्दलसत् सुन्दरयमुना तडान्धवीथीषु गोपीजनोत्तरीयैः आपादितसंस्तरो न्यशीदस्त्वम्
Sumadhura Narmalapanaihi, Kara Sangrahanaischa Chumbanollasaihi Gada Lingana Sangaihi, that is there, put a visarga comma, Sangaihi Swamangana. Next word, Lokam Akuli, if you want to break it, Lokam Akuli Chakrishe. Sumadhura Narmalapanaihi Kara Sangrahanaischa Chumbanollasaihi Gadha Lingana Sangaihi Twamangana Lokamakuli Chakrishe.
सुमधुर नर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गन सङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकमाकुली चकृषे सुमधुर नर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गन सङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकमाकुली चकृषे
सुमधुर नर्मलापनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गनसङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकम् आकुली चकृषे.
Gopi, the first line, Narmala. Sumadura Narmala Panaihi.
Okay, sure. सुमधुर नर्मालपनैः करसङ्ग्रहणैश्च चुम्बनोल्लासैः गाढालिङ्गनसङ्गैः त्वमङ्गनालोकम् आकुली चकृषे.
Vaso Harana Dine, comma, Yad Vaso Haranam Pratishrutam Tasam Tadapi Bibo Rasa Vivasha Swantanam, comma, Kanta Subruvama Dhadaha. In the chapter, because it doesn't kind of land exactly in the middle and all that, so it will be a little bit hard to say with the tune, but I think we'll get, it's like chapter 44, Dasakam 44, right? We'll just get used to it, I guess. Vasoharana dine yat vasoharanam pratishrutam tasam tadapi vibho rasa vivasha swantanam kanta subruvama dhadaha.
वासोहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभोरस विवशस्वान्तानां कान्तसुब्रुवामदाः वासोहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभोरस विवशस्वान्तानां कान्तसुब्रुवामदाः
Vamadhadaha. The dha, two, both das are there.
எனக்கு ஒரு தா தானே இருக்கு.
Okay, so on that one, it's like subruvam if you are breaking it, right? Then add
Okay.
the dha, adadhaha.
என்னோட இதுல வந்து ஒரு தா இல்ல.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're good, Gopiji.
Okay. वासोहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभो रासविवशस्वान्दानां कान्द सुब्रुवामदधाः. वासोहरणदिने यद्वासोहरणं प्रतिश्रुतं तासां तदपि विभो रसविवशस्वान्दानां कान्दसुब्रुवामदधाः.
Kandalita Dharma Lesham, comma, Kunda Mridu Smera Bhaktra Patojam Nanda Sutta Twam Trijagat Sundaram. So that mu that is there, we'll break it, put a im Sundaram, comma, Upaguhya, next word, Upaguhya Nandita Balaha. Kandalita Gharmalesham Kundamridusmera Bhaktrapathojam Nandasutatvam Trijagat Sundaram Upaguhya Nandita Balaha.
Kandalita Dharmalesham Kundamridusmera Bhaktrapathojam Nandasutatvam Trijagat Sundaram Upaguhyam Nandita Balaha. Upaguhyam இம்முண்டல்யா
இல்ல இல்லங்க Upaguhya Nandita Balaha.
இங்க இம் இருக்கு. उपगूह्य नन्दिता बालाः.
அதே மாதிரி இந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் லைன்ல இருந்து கர்மலேஷம், you said dharma.
Oh,
It's a
garma.
ga,
Oh,
ga.
sorry. Garma தான் இருக்கு. கந்தலித கர்மலேஷம் குந்தமிருது ஸ்மேர வக்ர பாத்தோஜம் நந்தசுதத்வாம் த்ரிஜகத் சுந்தரம் உபகூஹ்ய நந்திதா பாலாः.
கந்தலித கர்மலேஷம் குந்தமிருதுஸ்மேரவக்त्रपादोजं நந்தசுதத்வாம் த்ரிஜகத் சுந்தரம் உபகூஹ்ய நந்திதா பாலாः. கந்தலித கர்மலேஷம் குந்தமிருதுஸ்மேரவக்त्रपादोजं நந்தசுதத்வாம் த்ரிஜகத் சுந்தரம் upagusya nandita balaha.
Okay, there's a small little bit meaning more left in this chapter. So like we were telling, so Krishna then he tells them that you all have come in the middle of the night in this forest. This forest has got violent creatures, and you abandon your husband and your children, everything. All of them are going to come looking after you, and the right duty for you as a woman is to take care of your family, and you all have abandoned that. So he says you all should go back. So, and he says that, the real true love, and which is what Krishna will again tell, if you remember, when he leaves for Mathura, right? So he says the true love is not when I am in person. You should just be able to think about me, and then you should be able to feel that love. So you all should go back. So then, of course, all these gopikas then says, that, hey, they are extremely angry and they're upset. And they say, we've abandoned everything. And, like our minds were all focused on doing our household affairs. And then now we've abandoned everything and come. We can't imagine how we're going to leave you and go. So they say, we don't want to leave you and go. And what will we do? So they all want to stay back. So then Krishna then says, okay, that's fine, right? So that's how this chapter ends. That he says, okay, that's fine. You don't have to go back, right? And you can stay back here. That's how Krishna ends. And the last stanza here. So the interesting thing is, and I probably said this a couple of times in the past, this word, the character Radha, does not come in Srimad Bhagavatam at all. Okay, there's no mention of Radha. There is only a mention of one Gopika who Krishna liked a lot, right? Who is slightly elder than Krishna. That's how Bhagavatam talks. And that Radha character comes in the next chapter, next Dasakam. That character comes, not the name Radha. Bhattatripad also mentions Radha in a couple of instances. One, in the last stanza, he'll mention Radha, right? And then in the next Dasakam, he mentions Radha. Then the third time he'll mention, four times. Third time he'll say it when during the Kamsa Vadam, when Krishna goes there and then he removes the tusk out of that elephant. He says he'll take the beads to go make a jewelry for Radha. He mentions that word Radha there. Then the fourth time he'll say that is when they go for the seventh in the Panchang, for the solar eclipse, when everybody meets, he'll say Krishna met Radha. So 4 places Bhattatripad uses the word Radha. But Bhagavatam does not have any reference to Radha. So here it will come in the last stanza also. So Virahe Shvangara Mayaha. Let's say it together. Virahe Shvangara Mayaha, comma. Shringara Mayascha Sangamehitvam. Nitaram Angara. You can break at that ma. Nitaram Angara Mayaha. Remove that is Visarga, comma. Tatra Punas Sangamepi Chitramidam. विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे त्वं नितरामङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम्.
विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे हि त्वं नितरामङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम्. विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे हि त्वं नितरामङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम्.
विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे त्वं नितराम् अङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम्. विरहेष्वङ्गारमयः शृङ्गारमयश्च सङ्गमे हि त्वं नितराम् अङ्गारमयः तत्र पुनः सङ्गमेऽपि चित्रमिदम्.
Answer 10. Radha Tunga Payodhara Sadhu put a plus Parirambha Lolu Patmanam Aradaye Bhavantam, Pavana Puradhisha Shamaya Sakala Gadan. So here he says, oh Krishna, Aradaye Bhavantam, I'm meditating on you, I'm worshipping you, who likes this Gopika called Radha very much. That's the context in which he says, right? Who likes Radha very much and who tightly embraces Radha, to that Guru Vairappa, to that Krishna, please Shamaya Sakala Gadan, please eradicate all my ailments. Radha Tunga Payodhara Sadhu Pari Rambalolupatmanam Aradhaye Bhavantam Pavana Puradhisha Shamaya Sakala Gadan.
Radha Tunga Payodhara Sadhu Hariramba Lolupatmanam Aradaye Bhavantam Pavana Puradhisha Shamaya Sakala Gadan. Radha Tunga Payodhara Sadhu Hariramba Lolupatmanam Aradaye Bhavantam Pavana Puradhisha Shamaya Sakala Gadan.
राधा तुंग पयोधर साधोपरिरम्भलोलुपात्मानम् आराधये भवन्तं पवनपुराधीश शमय सकलगदान्. राधा तुंग पयोधर साधोपरिरम्भलोलुपात्मानम् आराधये भवन्तं पवनपुराधीश Shamaya Sakala Gadan.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, that completes very small chapter. We'll go to 67. Let's see here. The Kanan, you can be a student, and Vikram, you can be a student. So, to 67 is Bhagavatas Thirodhanadi Varnana. It's the disappearance of Lord Krishna, right? So here, and again, we'll break it into a couple of sections of stories here, right? So when Krishna then says, okay, you know what, you all don't go back, you all stay here. So the gopis and gopikas now become very happy, and they become very proud that, you know what, this Krishna, they have been looking forward to Krishna, and finally Krishna has said, that, yeah, you all stay back, you don't go back home. So they all get very proud because of their good fortune, right? So seeing that they all become proud, so Krishna's one aim when the stealing of the clothes happened was for them to remove that one I-ness out of them, that ego out of them. So here he still realized this gopikas all have some pride, right, that they are actually feeling because of association with Krishna, which all of us feel. We all say we are such a great devotee, right? I went around the temple 108 times. I'm the greatest devotee of the Lord, right? Everybody says that, how they are the greatest devotee of the Lord. So that pride should not be there. So all these gopikas had pride that Krishna likes me a lot. I am the most favorite person of Krishna. So to relieve them, completely, eliminate that pride, suddenly Krishna disappeared from there, from the banks of Yamuna. So when Krishna disappeared from the banks of Yamuna, so all of a sudden these gopikas, they were like so overwhelmed, right? They didn't know what to do. And they were just constantly thinking about Krishna. They began to miss him. And when that happens, what they were doing was, they started talking about him more. See, previously, when Krishna was there, they kind of gave up everything. Oh, Krishna is there. They didn't have nothing to worry, right? Now, when Krishna left, they started thinking about him even more. So they started talking about how he used to smile, what are the things he used to do, what are the favorite pastimes. You all must have seen it, those who are your kids, right? When my grandparents come and they spend time with the kids, and suddenly they then leave to India. They'll keep talking about, oh, we miss the grandkids so much. All through the plane journey, we were talking about how they used to run around, eat. They should always be talking about it, right? Similarly, the gopikas also are constantly talking about Krishna, talking about how all the things that Krishna used to do, how they used to imitate, and they started acting various plays. So one of them used to say, oh, when Putana came, this is how Krishna was doing. And they started behaving like Krishna showing movements like Krishna, acting like Krishna, and they were constantly just thinking about it. And then what they were doing was they were then searching for him through the forest, right? Like mad people desperately looking for Krishna, and they were constantly talking about it. And one very nice stanza will come, and when the stanza comes, you'll realize it. They go ask all the trees and all the creepers and Mother Earth. They'll say, "Did you see Krishna?" Right? They go call out to all the trees and all the people and say, "Oh, Champaka, hey, Chur." It will come, I think, one of the Champaka, Karnikara. They'll call out to all those trees and shrubs and say, "Did you see my Krishna?" They ask Mother Earth, "Did you see Krishna walking around?" And they keep talking about Krishna all the time and missing it. So when they were doing this, then finally they actually see footprints of Krishna at one point in time. And they see two footprints, like as if two people were walking. So immediately these Gopikas realize that amongst all of us, one Gopika is missing. And that is that other name Radha, where it will come, right? So it will say, Bhagavatam says one special Gopika. So they will say, oh, this one special Gopika is missing, Radha is missing, which means that Krishna has gone with Radha. So somehow he likes Radha most, right? That's why he has gone with Radha. And then suddenly when they start walking further, they'll start seeing those four footprints will become two footprints with much more ingrained into the ground. So these Gopikas will make an assumption, oh, this means that Krishna must have lifted Radha, because now that four has become two and it has become more deeper footprints, and he must have lifted Radha, right? So then that's what they keep assuming. Now Krishna did go with Radha. What happens then is Radha gets proud, because she'll now get proud that Krishna abandoned all those Gopikas and Krishna has come with me. So which means he likes me the most. So Radha will also get that pride. And then she will say to Krishna, Krishna, I want you to lift me and go. Right? So Krishna will say, sure, you sit on my shoulder. And then when she is about to do it, Krishna disappears from there also. So even Radha will now lose Krishna. And then when all these Gopikas are looking, Radha is also looking, they all bump into each other. They all bump into each other and say, oh, no, where has Krishna gone? And then they all realize that Radha tells the story. Then they all realize we've been so proud and haughty that Krishna is always with us. We love Krishna most, and that's why Krishna has completely gone away from us. And so we have to constantly keep thinking. So anyway, they continue then looking. So we'll stop here and come back to that later. Okay. So that is what is happening in the first half of it. So Spurat Parananda Rasatmakena, comma, Tvaya Samasadita Bhoga Leelaha Asimam Ananda, if you want to break it, Asimam Ananda Bharam Prapannaha Mahantamapur Madam Ambujakshaha. Ambujakshaha are lotus-eyed women, which are the Gopikas, and Madam, they get pride, right? Spurhat Parananda Rasatmakena Tvaya Samasadita Bhoga Leelaha Asimamananda Bharam Prapannaha Mahantamapur Madamam Bujakshyah.
Spurat Parananda Rasatmakena Tvaya Samasadita Bhoga Leelaha Asimamananda Bharam Prapannaha Mahantamapur Madamam Bujakshyah. Spurat Parananda Rasatmakena Tvaya Samasadita Bhoga Leelaha Asimamananda Bharam Prapannaha Mahantamapur Madamam Bujakshyah.
Spurat Parananda Rasatmakena Tvaya Samasadita Bhoga Leelaha Asimamananda Bharam Prapannaha Mahantamapur Madamam Bujakshyah. Spurat Parananda Rasatmakena Tvaya Samasadita Bhoga Leelaha Asimamananda Bharam Prapannaha Mahantamapur Madamam Bujakshyah.
Niliya Tesau Mayi Maya Mayam. So half ya and full ya, Maya Mayam, comma, Ramapatir Vishwa Manobhiramaha Iti Sma Sarvaha. Put a sound, Sarvah Kalitabhimanaha, comma. If you don't have a Visarga, put a Visarga there. Kalitabhimanaha, comma, Niriksha Govinda Tirohito Bhuhu. निलीयते सौ मयि मय्यमायं रमापतिर्विश्वमनोभिरामः इति स्म सर्वाः कलिताभिमानाः निरीक्ष्य गोविन्दतिरोहितो भूः
निलीयते सौ मयि मय्यमायं रमापतिर्विश्वमनोभिरामः इति स्म सर्वा कलिताभिमानाः निरीक्ष्य गोविन्द तिरोहितो भूः निलीयते सौ मयि मय्यमायं रमापतिर्विश्वमनोभिरामः इति स्म सर्वा कलिताभिमानाः निरीक्ष्य गोविन्द तिरोहितो भूः
निलीयते सौ मयि मय्यमायं रमापतिर्विश्वमनोभिरामः रामः इति स्म सर्वाः कलिताभिमानाः निरीक्ष्य गोविन्दतिरोहितो भूः निलीयते सौ मयि मय्यमायं रमापतिर्विश्वमनोभिरामः इति स्म सर्वाः कलिताभिमानाः निरीक्ष्य गोविन्दतिरोहितो भूः
राधाभिधां तावदजात garvam, put a im, that ma you break it, garvam, im and comma. Next word starts with atipriyam gopavadhum murare bhavan upadaya gato viduram, comma, taya saha swaira vihara kari. This is where again the Radha is coming, saying was atipriyam, the one who you liked a lot. Amongst all that, you went away separately with Radha. राधाभिधां तावदजात गर्वाम् अतिप्रियां गोपवधूं मुरारे भवानुपादाय गतो विदूरं तया सह स्वैरविहारकारी
राधाभिधां तावदजात गर्वाम् अतिप्रियां गोपवधूं मुरारे भवानुपादाय गतो विदूरं तया सह स्वैरविहारकारी राधाभिधां तावदजात गर्वाम् अतिप्रियां गोपवधूं मुरारे भवानुपादाय गतो विदूरं तया सह स्वैरविहारकारी
राधाभिधां तावदजात गर्वाम् अतिप्रियां गोपवधूं मुरारे भवानुपादाय गतो विदूरं तया सह स्वैरविहारकारी राधाभिधां तावदजात गर्वाम् अतिप्रियां गोपवधूं मुरारे भवानुपादाय गतो विदूरं तया सह स्वैरविहारकारी
तिरोहितेत त्वयि जात तापाः, comma, समं समेताः, put a sound, समेताः कमलाय ताक्ष्यः वने वने त्वां परिमार्गयन्त्यो, comma, विषादम् आपुर Bhagavan aparam, but becomes double na. So this is where they continue to look. So the vane, so they keep looking through the entire forest searching for Krishna. Tirohite tvai jatatapaha samam sametah kamalayatakshyah vane vane tvam parimargayantyo vishadamapur bhagavan aparam.
तिरोहिते तत्त्वयि जाततापाः समं समेता कमलायताक्ष्यः वने वने त्वां परिमार्गयन्त्यो विषादमापुर्भगवन्नपारम् तिरोहिते तत्त्वयि जाततापाः समं समेताः कमलायताक्ष्यः वने वने त्वां परिमार्गयन्त्यो विषादमापुर्भगवन्नपारम्
तिरोहिते तत्त्वयि जाततापाः समं समेताः कमलायताक्ष्यः वने वने त्वां परिमार्गयन्त्यो विषादमापोर्भगवन्न पारम् तिरोहितेऽथ त्वयि जाततापाः समं समेताः कमलायताक्ष्यः वने वने त्वां परिमार्गयन्त्यो विषादमापोर्भगवन्न पारम्
हा च्यूत हा चंपक कर्णिकार कमा हा मल्लिके मालति बालवल्यः किं वीक्षितो नो हृदयैक चोरः कमा इत्यादि तास्त्वत् pravana vilepuh. So like I was telling, as they're wandering through the forest, they're coming across these various trees and various shrubs and everything. So each of them, hachutam is oh mango tree, champaka is a champaka flower tree, karnikara is another tree, mallika flower tree, and malati or balavalyaha or creepers. So they keep asking all of them, did you see my kim vikshito no hridayeka choraha? Did any of you see the one who stolen our heart? Right? We are as a kind of lamenting and walking around the forest. Ha chuta ha champaka karnikara ha mallike malati balavalyah kim vikshito no hridayeka chorah ityadi tastvat pravana vilepuh.
हा चूतः चम्पककर्णिकार हा मल्लिके मालति बालवल्यः किं वीक्षितो नो हृदयैकचोरः इत्यादि तावत्प्रवणा विलेपुः हा चूतः चम्पककर्णिकार हा मल्लिके मालति बालवल्यः किं वीक्षितो नो हृदयैकचोरः इत्यादि तावत्प्रवणा विलेपुः
हाचूत हा चंपक कर्णिकार हा मल्लिके मालति बालवल्यः किं वीक्षितो नो हृदयैकचोरः इत्यादि तास्त्वत्प्रवणा विलेपुः हाचूत हा चंपक कर्णिकार हा मल्लिके मालति बालवल्यः किं वीक्षितो नो हृदयैकचोरः इत्यादि तास्त्वत्प्रवणा विलेपुः.
Sentence 6. Nirikshitoyam sakhi pankajakshah, comma, puro mametyakulam. So that word is one word. Mametyakulam alapanti tvam bhavana chakshushi vikshya kachit. Put a it there. This is the ta and the it. So you break it. Kachit, comma, tapam sakhinam dviguni chakara. निरीक्षितोऽयं सखि पंकजाक्षः पुरो ममेत्याकुलमालपन्ति त्वां भावना चक्षुषि वीक्ष्य काचित् तापं सखीनां द्विगुणी चकार.
निरीक्षितोऽयं सखि पंकजाक्षः पुरो ममेत्याकुलमालपत्नी पन्ति त्वां भावना चक्षुषि वीक्ष्य काचित् तापं सखीनां द्विगुणी चकार. निरीक्षितोऽयं सखि पंकजाक्षः पुरो ममेत्याकुलमालपत्नी त्वां भावना त्वामालपन्ति त्वां भावना चक्षुषि वीक्ष्य काचित् तापं सखीनां द्विगुणी चकार.
निरीक्षितोऽयं सखि पंकजाक्षः पुरो मयेत्याकुलमालपन्ति त्वां भावना चक्षुषि वीक्ष्य काचित् तापं सखीनां द्विगुणी चकार. निरीक्षितोऽयं सखि पंकजाक्षः पुरो ममेत्याकुलमालपन्ति त्वां भावना चक्षुषि वीक्ष्य काचित् तापं सखीनां द्विगुणी चकार.
So we'll just finish the rest of the meaning of this. So like I think when we said, so they were all, as they were lamenting. So it talks about one other example where, one Gopika, she was like, what do you call, she was so lost, right? Because she was so disappointed and worried, and they were all talking about Krishna all the time. Like we sometimes see, right? Oh, I can actually see that person right in front of me. So one of them is telling that I can actually see Krishna in front of me, right? So now all the other people get twice worried. Now they're saying, okay, first of all, we are not able to see, but more importantly, you are able to see. So that's why they say Sakinam Dviguni Chakara. They're getting twice, worried because we are not getting that opportunity, but you are getting the opportunity to see Krishna. So you are even more blessed, right? So they get double upset about it. So as they were sitting there and they were sitting in the banks of Yamuna, and like we said, they start enacting the various, activities of Krishna. So they talk about how Putana came and how Krishna, got rid of Putana. They enact all those things. They all take turns acting through it. That's when they see Radha coming. So the other Gopika comes. So, and then Radha says, you know what? I did go with Krishna. And what happened was I thought I was the most fortunate one. I was the most lucky one. And then when the pride got into me, then suddenly even Krishna disappeared even from me. So she comes and tells them that is the thing. We all were so proud that, that Krishna likes us the most, because of which he ended up abandoning us. So what these Gopikas do on the banks of Yamuna is there's something called as a Gopi Gita. So where the Gopikas actually sing a very nice prayer to Krishna, right? I think that is, Bhadrapat condenses it in stanza 8, right? He just says in only one line, Te gunan jagur gunamste. He says they all lament about you, and then out of deep compassion, out of some real solid feelings, they actually compose this Gopi Gita, which is about 20-25 stanzas in Bhagavatam, which they talk about how they miss Krishna, how Krishna is, is the greatest, and how they cannot live without Krishna, right? So they kind of sing that Gopi Gita, and when they sing that Gopi Gita and then they realize that they missed, that's when Krishna then comes back. And then Krishna comes back, and then, then the last stanza ends with the Gopikas are now extremely happy that Krishna has finally come back, and they all realize that this pride should not be there, and how they truly miss Krishna, even if he's not there. And then they realize that, and that's how this chapter ends. And then 68-69, the Rasa Krida begins, right? Okay, so stanza 7. Tvadatmikasta Yamuna Tatante, comma, Tavanu Chakruhu, put a sound, Tavanu Chakruh, Kila Cheshtitani, Vichitya Bhuyopi Tathaiva Manath. So there are two its there. So Manath, comma. Next one starts with the next it. Tvaya Vimuktam Dadrushush Dadrushuscha Radham. Tvadatmikasta Yamuna Tatante Tavanu Chakruh Kila Cheshtitani Vichitya Bhuyopi Tathaiva Manate Tvaya Vimuktam Dadrushuscha Radham.
Swadatmikata Yamuna Tatante Tavanu Chakruh Kila Cheshtitani Vichitya Bhuyopi Tathaiva Manate Tvaya Vimuktam Dadrushuscha Radham. Swadatmikata Yamuna Tatante Tavanu Chakruh Kila Cheshtitani Vichitya Bhuyopi Tathaiva Manate Tvaya Vimuktam Dadrushuscha Radham.
Tvadatmikasta Yamuna Tatante Tavanu Chakruh Kila Cheshtitani Vichitya Bhuyopi Tathaiva Manat Tvaya Vimuktam Dadrushuscha Radham. Tvadatmikasta Yamuna Tatante Tavanu Chakruh Kila Cheshtitani Vichitya Bhuyopi Tathaiva Manat Tvaya Vimuktam Dadrushuscha Radham.
The Cheshtitani in the second is a short E at the end, okay?
Cheshtitani.
Tataha, put is Tatas Samamta Bipine Samantat. Again, same Itandata Samantat, comma. Next line starts with a Ta. Tamo Vataravadi Marga Yentyaha Punar Vimishra Yamuna Tatante, comma. Brisham Vilepuscha Jagur Gunamste. ततः समन्ता विपिने समन्तात् तमोवतारावधिमार्गयन्त्यः पुनर्विमिश्रा यमुना तटान्ते भृशं विलेपुश्च जगुर्गुणांस्ते
ततः समन्ता विपिने समन्तात् तमोवतारावधिमार्गयन्त्यः पुनर्विमिश्रा यमुना तटान्ते वृषं विलेपुश्च जगुर्गुणांस्ते ततः समन्ता विपिने समन्तात् तमोवतारावधिमार्गयन्त्यः पुनर्विमिश्रा यमुना तटान्ते वृषं विलेपुश्च जगुर्गुणांस्ते
ततः समन्ता विपिने समन्तात् तमोवतारावधिमार्गयन्त्यः पुनर्विमिश्रा यमुना तटान्ते भृशं विलेपुश्च गुणांस्ते ततः समन्ता विपिने समन्तात् तमोवतारावधिमार्गयन्त्यः पुनर्विमिश्रा यमुना तटान्ते भृशं विलेपुश्च जगुर्गुणांस्ते
तथा व्यथा संकुल मानसानां व्रजांगनानां करुणैक सिंधो जगत्त्रयी मोहन मोहनात्मा त्वं प्रादुरासीरै मंदहासी. This is where Krishna comes back. तथा व्यथा संकुल मानसानां व्रजांगनानां करुणैक सिंधो जगत्त्रयी मोहन मोहनात्मा त्वं प्रादुरासीरै मंदहासी.
तथा व्यथा संकुलमानसानां व्रजांगनानां करुणैकसिन्धो जगत्त्रयी मोहन मोहनात्मा त्वं प्रादुरासीरयि मंदहासी. तथा व्यथा संकुलमानसानां व्रजांगनानां करुणैकसिन्धो जगत्त्रयी मोहन मोहनात्मा त्वं प्रादुरासीरयि मंदहासी.
तथा व्यथा संकुलमानसानां व्रजंगनानां करुणैकसिन्धो जगत्त्रयी मोहन मोहनात्मा त्वं पादुरसीरयि मंदहासी.
Become on the last line त्वं प्रादुरासीरै.
ओके. त्वं प्रादुरासीरयि मंदहासी. तथा व्यथा संकुलमानसानां व्रजांगनानां करुणैकसिन्धो जगत्त्रयी मोहन मोहनात्मा त्वं प्रादुरासीरयि मंदहासी.
संदिग्ध संदर्शनम् आत्मकान्तं त्वां वीक्ष्य तन्व्यः is तन्व्यस् सहसा तदानीं किं न चक्रुः f चक्रुः प्रमदाति भारात् स त्वं गदात् पालय मारुतेश. संदिग्ध संदर्शनमात्मकान्तं त्वां वीक्ष्य तन्व्यः सहसा तदानीं किं न चक्रुः प्रमदाति भारात् स त्वं गदात् पालय मारुतेश.
संदिग्ध संदर्शनमात्मकान्तं त्वां वीक्ष्य तन्व्यः सहसा तदानीं किं न चक्रुः प्रमदाति भारात् स त्वं गदात् पालय मारुतेश. संदिग्ध संदर्शनमात्मकान्तं त्वां वीक्ष्य तन्व्यः सहसा तदानीं किं न चक्रुः प्रमदाति भारात् सत्वं गदात् पालय मारुतेश.
संदिग्ध संदर्शनमात्मकान्तं त्वां वीक्ष्य तन्व्यः सहसा तदानीं किं न चक्रुः प्रमदाति भारात् सत्वं गदात् पालय मारुतेश संदिग्ध संदर्शनमात्मकान्तं त्वां वीक्ष्य तन्व्यः सहसा तदानीं किं न चक्रुः प्रमदाति भारात् सत्वं गदात् पालय मारुतेश.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay, let's maybe do like couple of stanzas of 70 and then we'll stop today. Just do 2-3 stanzas. So 70 is, it's got a lot of stories in there. One is Sudarshana Shapa Moksha Varnanam, Shankachuda Vada Varnanam, Vrishabhasura Vada Varnanam. So 3 different things coming there. Stanza 1. Ite Tvairasakulam Ramita Vallabhe Vallavaha Kadapi Puramambika Kamiturambika Kanane Sametya Bhavata Samham Nishinishevya Divyotsavam Sukham Sushupuragrasi Drajapamugranagastada. So it talks about this way, one day, just one of these days, where all the cowherd men along with Nandagopa and everyone, so they actually went to this forest in the Ambika Kanan, in the one forest called Ambika, right? So, but here Bhattripat doesn't say where it is. Bhagavatam, it says they went near the Saraswati river, which happened to exist at that time because it's around 3700 BC, right? So they all went there and they were all observing some fast and everything. And they finished that, and that night they all ended up staying in the forest. So at the night when everybody was sleeping, because in the middle of a forest, one large snake comes and then it starts swallowing, like a python. It comes and then it starts swallowing Nandagopa. That's what happens. So the Ugra Nagaha, some fierce snake comes and then starts swallowing Nandagopa. Iti Tvai Rasakulam Ramita Vallabhe Vallavaha, Kadapi Puram Ambika Kamitur Ambika, if you want to break it, Kamitur Ambika Kanane Sametya Bhavata Samam Nishi Nishevya Divyotsavam, so some festival was there for which they had gone, Divyotsavam, Sukham Sushupur Agrasid, break the Ra if you want, Sushupur Agrasid, Prajapam Ugra Nagas Tada. Iti Tvairasakulam Ramita Vallabhe Vallavaha Kadapi Puramambika Kamiturambika Kanane Sametya Bhavata Sabham Nishinishevya Divyotsavam Sukham Sushupuragrasi Brajapamugranagasstada.
Iti Tvayi Rasakulam Ramita Vallabhe Vallavaha Kadapi Puramambika Kamitu Rambika Kanane Sametya Bhavata Samam Nishevya Divyotsavam Sukham Sushu Puragrasi Vrajapa Mugranagastada.
Correct. Sushupur Agrasid.
Sushupur Agrasi. Sushupur. Okay. Sushupur. Iti Tvayi Rasakulam Ramita Vallabhe Vallavaha Kadapi Puramambika Kamiturambika Kanane Sametya Bhavata Samam Nishevya Divyotsavam Sukham Sushupur Agrasit Prajapa Mugranagastada.
Iti Tvayi Rasakulam Ramita Vallabhe Vallavaha Kadapi Puramambika Kamiturambika Kanane Sametya Bhavata Samam Nishevya Divyotsavam Sukham Sushupuragrasid Vrajapa Mugranagastada.
Yeah, Brajapam Ugra.
Mugranagastada. Vrajapam Mugranagastada. Iti Tvayi Rasakulam Ramita Vallabhe Vallavaha Kadapi Puramambika Kamitu Krambika Kanane समेत्य भवता समं निशि निषेव्य दिव्योत्सवं सुखं सुषुपुरग्रसीद् व्रजपमुग्रनागस्तदा
Answer 2. Samunmukamatolmukairabhihatepi tasmin balat amunchati bhavatpade nyapati pahi pahi titaihi tada khalu pada bhavan samupagamya pasparshatam bhabau sacha nijam tanum samupasadya vaidyadarim. So when they saw this, when Nandagopa was getting bitten by the snake, so he of course calls for help. Pahi pahi means help, help, right? So he calls out to Krishna and he calls out to everybody saying, please help me, I'm getting bitten by a snake. So all these gopas who are there nearby, they all come and they start beating the snake with fire torch and everything they have, but nothing happens. The snake is not letting them go, letting Nandagopa go. So finally Krishna comes, and like we said, like just follow Krishna's rules, don't try to imitate Krishna, right? So if we see a snake eating somebody, the first thing we'll do is we'll run. Krishna just goes, touches that snake with his feet, right? And the moment he just touches the snake with its feet, it suddenly lost its form and becomes a Vidyadhara. Vidyadhara are a little bit like demigods who exist in some higher heavenly planets. So suddenly it takes the form of a Vidyadhara and then it starts shining, right, with that form there. So Samun Mukham, that ma you can break. Mukham, Athol Mukhair, that ra you can break. Abhihate pi. So that's easy to break it that way. Samun Mukham, Athol Mukhair, Abhihate pi, Tasmin Balat. Put it there.
Rajesh, adu mukara, mukaira.
Mukhair. Mukhairabi. Mukhairabi. Abhihate. Tasmin Balat. Put it at the end of that line. Add that. Next line, you'll have a da that becomes replaced with a a. Amunchati bhavat pade nyapati pahi pahiti taihi tada khalu pada bhavan samupagamya pasparsha tam, bhabau sacha nijam tanum samupasadhya vaidyadarim. Samun mukamatol mukhair abhihate pitasmin balate amunchati bhavat pade nyapati pahi pahi titaihi tada khalu pada bhavan samupagamya pasparshatam bhabau sacha nijam tanum samupasadya vaidyadarim.
Samunmuka matolmukair abhihate pitasmin balade amunjati bhavatpade nyapati pahi pahiti taihi tada kalupada bhavan samupagam pasparshatam babau sacha nijam tanum samupasadya vaidyadari. Samunmuka matol mukair abhihate pitasmin balate amunjati bhavat paden yapati pahi tiptaihi tadha kalu pada bhavan samupagam pasparshatam babau sacha nijam tanum samupasadya vaidyadari.
Samunmukha matol mukhairabhi atepi tasmin bhalate amunchati bhavat pade nyapati pahi pahiti taihi tada khalu pada bhavan samupagamya pasparshatam babhau sacha nijam tanu samupasadya vaidyadharim.
Nijam tanum, last line.
Nijam tanum. Samunmukha matol mukhairabhirathepi tasmin balate amunchati bhavat pade nyapati pahi pahiti taihi tada khalu pada bhavan samupagamya pasparshatam
Parsha, yes, parsham, touch.
pasparshatam babhau sacham nijam tanum samupasadhya vaidyadharim.
We'll just do one more and end this story and then we stop the class. Sudarshanadhara Prabho Nanu Sudarshana Kyosmyaham Munin Kwachidapahasam Taihamam Vyadurvahasam Bhavat pada samarpanat amalatam gatosmi tyasau stuvan nijapadam yayau brajapadam chagopa muda. So suddenly this Vidyadhara, one shining person comes in front of them. Now Krishna knows who it is, but then he asks, because of the benefit of the Gopas, he asks, sir, you look so wonderful and shining. Who are you and how did you become a snake? Right? What happened to you? So that Vidyadhara says, that person says, I'm a very famous Vidyadhara of that particular demigod called as Sudarshana. And then he says, I used to be very rich and I used to be very beautiful or handsome, right? Because a guy. So he says, but when I was wandering around the world, I once saw all these munis, sages actually walking, and they're all, they were wearing nothing, right? They were wearing some bare minimum clothes and they were all completely shabbily dressed. And then I started insulting those sages. So because of that, they cursed me. And then because of that, I had to take this lowly form of a snake because of the curse. But he says it's actually a blessing because I became a snake and then your feet touched me now. And then I've been relieved. And then with that, the Vidyadhara circumambulates and then he goes back to his kingdom and the Gopas come back to Vrindavan. Sudarshana Dhara Prabho Nanu Sudarshanakyosmyaham. Say it together. Sudarshanakyosmyaham, comma. Munin Kwachid Apahasam, if you want to break it. Kwachid Apahasam Ta Ihamam Vyadur Vahasam Bhavat Pada Samarpanad Amalatam. So purity. So Samarpanad Amalatam Gatosmityasau, comma. Stuvan Nijapadam Yayau Brajapadam Cha Gopa Muda. Sudarshanadhara Prabho Nanu Sudarshanakhyosmyaham Munin Kwachidapahasam Ta Ihamam Vyadurvahasam Bhavat Pada Samarpanadamalatam Gatosmi Tyasau Stuvan Nijapadam Yayau Brajapadam Cha Gopa Muda.
Sudarshanadhara Prabho Nano Sudarshanakhyosmyaham. Sudarshanadhara Prabho Nano Sudarshanakhyosmyaham Munin Kwachida Pahasamta Ihamam Yadurvahasam Bhavat Pada Samarpanat Amalatam Gatosmi Tyasau Suvan Nijapadam Yayo Brajapadam Chagopa Muda. Sudarshanadhara Prabho Nano Sudarshanakhyosmyaham Munin Kwachida Pahasam Ta Ihamam Yadurvahasam Bhavat Pada Samarpanat Amalatam Gatosmi Tyasau Suvan Nijapadam Yayo Brajapadam Chagopa Muda.
Sudarshanadhara Prabho Nanu Sudarshanakhyosmyaham Munin Kvachidapahasam Tahihamam Vyadurvahasam Bhavat Pada Samarpanad Malatam Gatosmityasau Stuvan Nijapadam Yayau Vrajapadam Chagopa Mudam Sudarshanadhara Prabho Nanu Sudarshanakhyosmyaham Munin Kwachidapahasam Tahiyamam Vyadurvahasam Bhavat Padar Samarpanadamalatam Gatosmityasau Stuvan Nijapadam Yayau Vrajapadam Chagopa Muda.
Vikram, the third line, the Gatosmityasau, long E there, me.
Gatosmityasau. Okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll end the class here. Shri Krishna Parabrahmane Namaha Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam Kaladeshavadebhyam Nirmuktam Nityamuktam Nikamashata Sahasrena Nirbhasyamanam Aspashtam Drishtavatre Punarurupurushartatmakam Brahmatattvam Tattavad Bhadi Sakshad Guru Pavanapure Anta Bhagyam Jananam Kahena vacha manasendriyeva buddhyatmana va prakrite swabhavat karhomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayami. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Rajesh.
உங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப
Thank you,
நன்றி
Rajesh.
ராஜேஷ் ட்ரிப்ல. உங்களோட ட்ரிப்ல ரொம்ப நன்றிண்ணா. நானு அந்த திருவானைக்காவல் போயிருக்கப்ப திருவானைக்காவல் கோவில்ல வந்து இவ்வளவு நாள் எவ்வளவு நாளும் திருவானக்காவல் போயிட்டு இருக்கோம் நாங்க. சின்ன வயசுல இருந்து குழந்தையில இருந்து போயிட்டு இருக்கோம். பட் இந்த ட்ரிப்பு தான் அந்த கோபுரத்துல உள்ள ஒவ்வொரு இதையும் பார்த்து சுதா பார்த்து சொன்னா, இந்த ராச கிரீடையில இருந்து ராச கிரீடையில எவ்வளவு அழகா கோபுரத்துல இது பண்ணிருக்கா தெரியுமா? அந்த இதுவா இருக்கட்டும், கிருஷ்ணர் சுத்தி கோபிகா இதுவா இருக்கட்டும், எல்லா அவதாரமும் அந்த கோபுரத்துல இருக்கு. ஸ்ரீராமன் கோவில்ல கூட கிடையாது, திருவானக்காவல்ல அத்தனையும் அந்த கோபுரத்துல இதுல இருக்கு. அமேசிங் அமேசிங். அங்க எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் பண்ணவே இல்லை.
Okay. முன்னாடி if you don't know, you just ignore it and keep moving, right? And the context. அதே மாதிரி தான் இப்போ வந்து நான் சொன்னேன், if you go to Mathura, Vrindavan, you go to those temples, they have these paintings everywhere, right? இந்த ஒரு சாப்டரும், இந்த சுதர்ஷன இதோட இருக்கட்டும், அடுத்து இந்த கேஷியோட பதம், எல்லா ஸ்டோரிஸ் will be there, right? You will just think, okay, some picture and you keep going, but when you know the story, you start letting go. இது நம்ம கேட்டிருக்கோமே, படிச்சிருக்கோமே, அப்படின்னு ஒரு இது இருக்கும் அங்க.
Next time when you go to Srirangam, just look at all the.
நான் ஸ்ரீரங்கம் எப்போ சின்னதுல போனது. I'll have to definitely go. I'll let you know if I go. So
கோபுரம் பாருங்க, எல்லா பூரா நாராயணியம். I can see that.
திருவானக்காவல்ல எதிரே பார்க்கல. திருவானக்காவல் ஸ்ரீரங்கம் கோவில்லே இது பண்ணலாம். பட் திருவானக்காவல் கோபுரத்துல வந்து அப்பதான் தெரிஞ்சது. நான் சொல்லிட்டு இந்த அத்வைதம் வந்து எப்படி இது பண்ணிருக்கா பாரு. ஒவ்வொரு ஸ்டெப்லயும் வந்து அத்வைதத்தை வந்து இது பண்ணிருக்கா. சுவாமி கோவில்ல ஃபுல்லா இதுதான். அமேசிங் அமேசிங். நான் வந்து இந்த டைம் ரொம்ப நன்றிடா உங்களை.
Thank you. I'll definitely let you know next time I go to Srirangam. So
கண்டிப்பா.
Okay. Bye.
Sriram.
Thank you, Rajesh.